At the end of World War II, Operation Paperclip was launched by the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, to smuggle known Nazi war criminals into the United States for recruitment into U.S. intelligence agencies. The Nazis were cleared to work in America after having their backgrounds bleached by the military. False employment histories were provided, and their previous Nazi affiliations were completely removed from the record. The OSS provided a model for the Central Intelligence Agency that was established in September 1947. The CIA specialized in propaganda, economic warfare, sabotage, and demolition. By the early 1950s, they controlled over 25 newspapers and wire agencies and had 3,000 plus employees engaged in propaganda. Journalists willing to promote the views of the CIA included members of the New York Times, Time Magazine, Newsweek, The Washington Post, and CBS Television.
I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public.
And now a message for the sheeple. Lies upon lies are churning out of mainstream media on a daily basis. Lies shuffled in with distractions and biased reporting. A propaganda machine run by the CIA since at the very least the 1950s, and owned by the big banks that have given a handful of consolidated media corporations a license to kill any truth in journalism.
Drown out a link between a medicine and a harmful side effect, say vaccines and autism, by throwing a bunch of conflicting paid-for studies, surveys, and experts into the mix, confusing the truth beyond recognition.
That's right. In 2013, while America slept, the Smith-Mundt Act, a decades-old anti-propaganda legislation, was quietly assassinated. And the absence of the Bulwark Bill is becoming increasingly apparent and dangerous as a false narrative of reality is blended in with the growing criminal policies of the Obama administration and his United Nations-backed refugees invasion agenda. Of course, if your entire administration is a lie, lecturing the American people just comes naturally.
When our elected officials and our political campaigns become entirely untethered to reason and facts and analysis, when it doesn't matter what's true and what's not, that makes it all but impossible for us to make good decisions on behalf of future generations.
The President's Justice Department sold weapons to narco-terrorists south of our border who killed one of our finest. The President's State Department lied about Benghazi with false information provided by the White House. The President's Attorney General authorized spying on a Fox News journalist and his family for reporting on a North Korean nuclear test. The President's Justice Department confiscated phone records of the Associated Press because they reported on a thwarted terrorist attack. The President's Treasury Department uses the IRS to target political opposition. The President's Health and Human Services Secretary pressures the insurance companies she is supposed to regulate to promote Obamacare, which is the same law she uses to force citizens to pay for abortion-inducing drugs against their religious liberties. Mr. Speaker, the President's dishonesty, incompetence, vengefulness, and lack of moral compass lead many to suggest that he is not fit to lead. The only problem is that his Vice President is equally unfit and even more embarrassing.
This explains why Hillary Clinton can run a campaign for president, ignoring a laundry list of potential indictments. This explains the accepted narrative deeming Donald Trump a racist because he dared bring the threat of radical Islam to the national stage. This is what elite mafia controlling reality looks like.
When I was at CNN, eventually it got almost impossible to get stories on about Bahrain. And then in June, our documentary, that 20 minutes of it was a pretty stark report on the views in Bahrain. It aired in the US for one day, but it never aired to its target audience, and that's on CNN International in Bahrain. And Alex, I started getting employees at CNN, longtime employees, approaching me saying, you should investigate this. This is very suspicious. Something's going on here. I felt defrauded as a journalist. We found out that at the same time I was being detained and risking my life to expose the Bahrain regime, CNN International is taking money from them in exchange for producing content that it airs on CNN International, content disguised as news. I mean, one of these programs, the reporter, Richard Quest, was reporting live from Bahrain for a week, and on a program called iList. And that program made Bahrain seem progressive and like the Crown Prince was a reformer. And as an employee at CNN, I was never told that this was going on. Also, viewers are not being told that CNN is being paid by state regimes, some with horrific human rights records, to air content disguised as news, which they're often not even telling the viewers that this content was paid for by governments. And Alex, on a journalistic level, this is horrific.
The lifespan of a major news story is equivalent to that of a common housefly. Any lingering questions are quickly buried, and by now, civilization has become accustomed to it. By unleashing complete chaos and controlling the narrative, a full-scale, slow-motion, soft war has been waged, funded, and promoted by our own enslaved ignorance. Jon Bowne for Infowars.com.